Let's now talk about the Klingons, who suddenly all have silly wigs glued to their xenomorph heads, and the only good bit in this whole episode is when they show the hologram of a proper looking D7 ship being designed by the Klingons. The only problem is that we already saw a ship which looks nothing like it, and it was referred to as a D7 in the previous season, so maybe we can say the universal translator simply cannot distinguish certain Klingon letters properly. Maybe they have two different letter Ds that sound almost the same, or some excuse like that, or maybe they just call it the same name for whatever reason. Anyway, I was happy to see the correct D7, so at least they did something right for a change. And when they said that Vok will be put in charge of this new generation of battleships, my head already started coming up with theories of how they might try to use the Vok story to explain the later human appearance of the other Klingons. And then we saw all the other Klingons are mocking him, so I started thinking that maybe L'Oreal might deliberately infect some of those other houses which oppose her with that same virus that once turned the Klingons into human looking, to punish them for their attitude, to make them all like Vok so that they won't make fun of him. I mean, if they really wanted to, they could easily explain this whole thing similar to the way that Enterprise did. Maybe they could acknowledge the events of Enterprise and simply say that after the Klingons were infected by that virus and some of them became human looking, maybe they tried to develop a cure to fix what happened, but they accidentally overdid it and maybe activated way too many ancient genes, which made them all look like the orcs we see now. And maybe the Klingons destroyed the original virus, but the House of Spies, L'Oreal's house, could have kept a secret sample of it, and maybe it could explain part of that process which turned Vok into a human, because I don't think surgery alone would be enough to do that. I mean, the DNA itself had to be changed, so maybe they did use that virus as part of that process, and now that all the Klingons are mocking Vok for looking human, maybe they would release this virus on some of the population, which would turn them all into human looking, and maybe we can assume that when the Klingons fix it again later, this time they will do it properly, and not like the first time in which they overdid it and became orc-like. You know, just like in that episode of TNG Genesis in which Worf turned into a monster because Dr. Crusher accidentally created some virus which activated ancient genes, and then Worf turned into an orc-like monster. And also in another TNG episode we saw a Klingon demon which also looked kind of like a monster, so we could say that maybe ancient Klingons look like that, and when they try to repair the effects of that eugenics virus, they accidentally activated some of those genes, and that's why they look like this now, and maybe L'Oreal will infect them with a new version of the virus, and again they will all look human, and only a few years later they will fix it properly for good this time. And maybe she already started using such a virus to make herself look more human, since her head apparently decreased in size and her nose became more human looking. And what the hell happened to her scar? I guess they have the medical technology to fix it, but would a Klingon really remove a scar? I thought Klingons take pride in their scars. Do you remember how Martok refused to fix his damaged eye? One thing that I did like is that they showed that the Klingons apparently have purple blood, so that reminds me of Star Trek 6, in which we saw that Klingons have pink blood, which seemed to be a contradiction with the other Star Trek shows and movies, because we always saw Klingons having red blood, and only in that movie it was pink, and so here it seems kind of purple, so it's like a mix between red and pink, I guess. So I actually do like it, and again, it can be explained maybe as part of the whole cure thing I mentioned. Maybe when the Klingons try to reverse the effect of that virus which made them look human, maybe they use some kind of cure which also made their blood change its color. And only much later they fixed this problem as well, when they finally restored their proper Klingon look, only then their blood returned to normal. So maybe in Star Trek 6 we kind of saw the last stages of that, when their blood was still pink, and after that it became red again. So anyway, I did kind of like the color of their blood here, because it's kind of in between all of that. Maybe you could say that only some of the Klingon houses have pink blood and others have a red one, and some have in between colors, and so that would also be an okay explanation, since Klingons apparently have a lot of variety between them, between houses, so I'd be fine with that as well. So if they want to, they can easily explain this continuity problem. So anyway, the evil Klingon discovers that Vok is in contact with the Federation because he contacted Michael, and because he used some paint on his face, which I guess has some kind of nanotech with eavesdropping technology, which he somehow knew that Vok will wipe from his face and take with him. Whatever, fine. They already showed the Klingons have nanotech suits and all that advanced stuff, so I don't really have a problem with the eavesdropping paint. It's only stupid that he knew that Vok will take that paint, so whatever, fine. So anyway, the evil Klingon, who by the way is the father of Cole from season 1, and he looks and sounds exactly like him, only older, so I guess it's the same actor. So it's kind of a neat way to get him back after killing him off previously, and now he just plays his own father. And he's just as evil and nasty, and he's basically the same character. And he also discovers that Vok and L'Oreal had a baby together, which was kept hidden. So he kidnaps the baby because, you know, Klingons take hostages in order to force L'Oreal to give him control of the Empire. And then he comes to meet her face to face with the baby and only a handful of guards. And also all he needs from her is her fingerprint signature apparently, even though I'm not even sure how come she has a fingerprint, since their fingers apparently are just claws now, but whatever. So anyway, why didn't she install some kind of dead man switch on that bomb she has in the center of the planet, so that that way no one can threaten her that way, and make everyone know about it so that no one will try to assassinate her? So why didn't she do that? So anyway, because Vok told Michael that L'Oreal might be in trouble, and Michael said that she will pass it up the chain of command, and then Section 31 shows up to save L'Oreal. So I guess this means that Section 31 is directly working for Starfleet Command. And also it's laughable how everybody knows who Section 31 are. Even Vok somehow knows all about them, and they all carry black badges to identify themselves, which is incredibly stupid, and I've talked about all of this before, so I won't repeat it. And it seems as if they actually did plan a possible spin-off with this idea, because they show that they have a secret ship, which apparently has some kind of holographic locking technology. Maybe it's the same technology that the Romulans once used in Enterprise to disguise their ship as other ships to commit false flag attacks and stuff like that. So apparently it looks like this ship of Section 31 also seemingly has that kind of holographic technology, which I assume they can use to make their ship look like other ships. And we see that the Emperor from the Mirror Universe is now apparently an agent of Section 31, and she saves L'Oreal and Vok. And apparently she has super technology, which no one in Starfleet had even a century later. Remember when they sent Picard in a spy mission against the Cardassians? All they gave him is a phaser and maybe a few devices, but he didn't have any of this super advanced technology. So Starfleet really screwed Picard on that one. Maybe they wanted him to get captured, since apparently even a century earlier you have all this amazing technology. I guess Section 31 is keeping it all secret for themselves. Maybe it's like the gadgets that James Bond uses, you know. The British government secretly has all kinds of super technology, but it's keeping it only for its spies and doesn't give any of it to the actual military or the population. So apparently she has a holographic mask and she can look like the Klingons if she wants to. And also she has a personal cloaking technology. It's a bit unclear. It's unclear if she actually beamed down there, or if she just decloaked, or if she phased through a wall. So it's really unclear exactly what happened when she appears. I guess it's just holographic technology, maybe the kind that we saw in Star Trek Insurrection, which apparently was able to make people invisible. And also it's funny that if she made herself invisible, why did she also make herself look like a Klingon? Isn't that kind of an overkill? So she made herself look like a Klingon with a hologram, and also made herself invisible, and also passed through walls, and also beams from place to place, and also has all these super weapons that take everybody out in the room, and she has a bubble gun which can trap someone in a floating bubble. Oh my god, oh my god. So anyway, it appears as if they're actually setting up a Section 31 show, which by the way I think would be a terrible mistake. It's a terrible idea for a Star Trek show. It's not Star Trek. And Section 31 are supposed to be the villains, they are not the good guys, so how can they possibly carry a show? And I think maybe they stole this idea from the people who talked about Star Trek Discovery, because when we saw the Discovery with all its super advanced technology which Starfleet doesn't supposed to have yet, we all assumed that maybe they will explain this contradiction by saying that this is a secret ship, maybe that it's run by Section 31. That's what we all thought when we saw those black badges in the third episode, which by the way were never explained. They never explained what they were doing on the ship, and they never appeared again. Maybe they'll explain it in flashbacks. Maybe Lorca was also working for Section 31, I guess. So I think that would have been cool if they made the Discovery the Section 31 ship. I mean, it even has the number 31 in its registry. It's printed on the hull. And so if they made this ship into a Section 31 ship, it could explain away a lot of those contradictions with canon. How come no one ever knew about the missions of the Discovery and about the Spore Drive and all of that? So that could have been a neat way to explain what they did in the show, and yet instead they made the Discovery just a regular ship, which apparently everybody knows about, and they even released Mad after he knew all about the Spore Drive, and they just let him go and he might tell it to the Klingons and whoever he wants, and all the admirals know about the ship, and so it's not a secret ship. So maybe the producers of the show heard about this fan theory and thought, oh, that's a good idea, but it's too late to do that with Discovery, so let's make a spin-off show about that. And let's give them technology which is even more ridiculously advanced. Let's show that they have personal cloaking technology, and they have all these devices, and they can holographically look like whoever they want, and all this advanced stuff. So I guess they kind of took that fan idea and decided to make it its own spin-off and make it even more ridiculous. And to have Georgiou as the lead is a terrible idea. Because she's a one-dimensional villain. She's a space Hitler from the mirror universe. She said that she committed genocide against many planets. So how can she possibly be a hero of a show? If they did this idea with Captain Lorca without that whole twist with the mirror universe, if they simply showed that Lorca is kind of a shady guy who is willing to do necessary evil to accomplish things to defend the Federation, then I'd be all for it. Then I would say, yeah, it's a good idea. It's not really in the spirit of Star Trek, but it might be a fun show. So I would be fine with that, but the way they apparently are planning to do this is terrible. And also that ship looked kind of silly. It looked like that Vulcan warp sledge from Star Trek 1, the motion picture, which was basically just a shuttle. So the Section 31 ultra advanced super ship looks just like a shuttle. So anyway, I really hope that series will not come to pass. This is a terrible idea. And apparently they now recruited Voq to join them. And they concocted this elaborate ruse to show to the Klingons as if L'Oreal killed Voq after he killed her baby, and they actually showed a beheaded Klingon baby on the show. I never imagined in my life that I would ever see in a Star Trek show a scene like this. This is worse than anything they ever showed in Game of Thrones. Even they didn't go that low to show dead baby bodies and showing beheaded babies and baby heads and all kinds of nasty graphic stuff like that. And by the way, I'm a fan of horror and I have no problem with gory scenes, but not in Star Trek. Star Trek was always an all-family show in which you solve the conflicts with diplomacy and dialogue most of the time, and which didn't show excessive violence and stuff like that. And yet here we see beheaded alien babies, and they show us close-ups of it, and it looks like an actual dead baby. And even though they later revealed that it was fake, it doesn't mean that that previous scene didn't happen, that they actually showed us a beheaded baby on Star Trek. So what the hell are they thinking? I guess they want to be like Game of Thrones, they want to be edgy, they want to shock the audience, but it doesn't work, and especially if they don't have the balls to actually do it. I mean, they reveal right after that it was all fake. That Voq is not really dead and beheaded, the baby is not really dead, and so what was the point of that scene? So all of this story is totally pointless. Then Voq gives that baby to adoption. There was only one albino Klingon we saw in all of Star Trek. It was in a Deep Space Nine episode called the Blood Oath. We saw someone who I'm not even sure was a Klingon. Everybody called him the albino. And by the way, when I first saw Voq, I also speculated that maybe he's supposed to be the same character, since Klingons are very long-lived, so maybe that was the same guy. So I guess now we could say maybe that's the son of Voq. But really, what's even the point of that? What's the point of this whole story? I really don't know. He has a baby, fine, but then he immediately gives him to adoption, so if we don't see that baby again, then all of this was completely pointless. This whole episode felt pointless. Nothing really happened. We still didn't see Spock. We are not any closer to solving the mystery of the Red Angel. Nothing really changed with the Klingons. L'Oreal is still in power, so really this whole thing was pointless. I guess the only thing that changed is that Voq is now with Section 31, so that's the only thing that changed. But I'm sure nothing will come out of it. I'm sure that series will not happen, and I'm sure this whole show will probably get cancelled. I really don't think they will do a season 3, not after this episode. So anyway, that's my thoughts about this episode. Let me know what you think in the comments below and we can discuss it. That's it for now, and I will see you guys next time. Bye bye.